Welcome. It is my pleasure to introduce this session called Uniting Latinos in this Decade. It is an honor to be able to be addressing Dr. Juan Andrade's incredible organization this time around. I had the pleasure to talk to you last year. My name is Claudia Romo Edelman. I'm the founder of the World Human Foundation, and this is my favorite ever topic. So I'm very grateful to having your attention to talk about the relevance of the unification of the Latino community. And for that, I cannot be more honored and humbled to have an incredible set of panelists with me, my friends and admired peers, Jorge Plasencia, CEO and chairman and co-founder of República Havas, and Stacy De Armas, Senior Vice President, Diverse Consumer Insights and Initiatives, DEI practice of Nielsen. So we welcome you all. Thank you for being here. And let me start by saying this. I know for all of you, you have heard since the last 3 years, I've been like a broken record talking about the unification of the Latino community and as a way to really access our potential, the power of being one, the power of acting as a community, supporting each other, hiring from each other, mentoring each other, as opposed to having a mentality of being inside of a bubble, thinking of small groups of either countries of origins or political affiliations. Mexicans don't talk to Venezuelans, don't talk to the Colombians. We are Latinos, and we have to have a common dream. And the urgency of us uniting is now national. Why? Because the beginning of the unification of Latinos can really mean the beginning of the unification of America, the beginning of healing of America. You've heard it all along, how important it is that we cross and heal as a nation that is so divided. And we can start that process. So it is an incredible window of opportunity. It's also a responsibility of the Latino community to change and start that. It is an incredible opportunity for all the leaders that for the first time we have in the new government, that we have as CEOs that we're rising up to take the agenda of unification of Latinos seriously. You want to know why is this so important? First of all, because we're so many. We're 60 million people, 18% of the population. By 2025, we're going to be 1 in 4. Yes. Hello, hola. Hello, hola. We're going to be massive because our interracial marriage is huge. We're very generous with our love. Every second, one Latino turns 18. 1 million Latinos will be turning 18 every year. Stacy is the data. She has taught me everything I need to understand about how powerful we are as a demographic, and as such, how important it is that we understand that if we start with a movement of unification, the country will follow. And because of our incredible economic power, $2.6 trillion, if you would put the Latino economy as a standalone economy, we would be the 8th largest in the world, the largest economy of the world. If we would put the GDP of the Latino community compared to the 10 fastest growing GDPs, we are there in the top charts of the world. So we are many, we're economically powerful, and we can lead this movement. The session today will actually start addressing why does it matter, what can you do, and what are the dreams that we can achieve together. What are the things that really we can start compromising integrating as a shared agenda? Is it possible that we can, all of us agree that we're fed up of being invisible and we want to move from invisible to visible, from negative to positive, from takers to makers? Is that an agenda that we have a goal to be seen, heard, and valued? Let's actually start this session in the next couple of minutes with 2 experts on different areas that will actually ideally try to bring inspiration, education, and enlightenment for all of us to understand that this train is departing and that we have an incredible opportunity as Latinos, as Hispanics, as Latinx, whatever you want to call yourself, to be unified and to be together, to support each other, to mentor each other, to buy from each other, to break through the finishing line in a way that would actually allow us to really contribute to the country and start healing our beloved America. So I'm going to kick it off, and I would like to start this conversation by asking Stacy. If you don't know, Stacy, I've learned so much about everything that you have said and done with the data of Nielsen. You and I shared a passion about changing the perception of the Latino community. I would like to start just in general, tell us, why is it important to unify the Hispanic community? What would be the impact of a unified community, and what would be ways in which you see that this is possible or is necessary to address that change?
Thank you so much, Claudia, and welcome to everybody from USHLI. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Claudia, there are three really important reasons why we should begin this unification, continue this unification. And I'm kind of going to address each of them and then talk about perhaps how we can move forward. The most important, I think, is power in numbers. We often are fragmented, as you suggested, communities, of Mexicanos and Cubanos and sort of different communities that perhaps have different areas of focus or importance, but together we are the largest ethnic minority in the United States, nearly 62 million from the latest data that I saw. In fact, before we're discussing it closer to 60, but it is the latest data that I just saw that came out about 2 days ago was 62 million off of the new projections, remarkably just over 19% of the population. So together, as we unify, we can have a voice for and advocate for what's important to our community, not just immigration. Of course, that's important to us, but what really is important is education for our children. We've talked about recovery from the economy, and as a community together, our voice is louder. So our power in numbers perhaps is the most important. Additionally, I think we need to be more inclusive within our own community, specifically Afro-Latinos, a significant part of our community, often not talked about, but this is a very important and growing part of our community, a significant part of our culture. And as we wrap our arms around all of the edges of our community, we can really continue with that first, which is power in numbers and working together. And I think the third thing, when I think about the reasons why we need to do this, are we need to find our commonalities. I suggested earlier in my remarks that perhaps different countries of origin have different items, different things that are important to us, and different ways we approached everything from politics to our culture to our family. But again, there are commonalities, and perhaps some of the most important ones are family values, right? Those are things that cross our different countries of origin, the way that we embrace our families, our older generations, the way that we place value on education for our children. So I think these are really some of the reasons why we can find more together than we can indeed by separating. There are a number of issues that are really important to our community right now and how we should proceed together, unifying. I think perhaps, and I know we've discussed this before, Claudia, too, and the data tells us a lot of different things, but I think the most important thing right now for our community is really the economy. As you know, as a result of all of the events of 2020, not COVID certainly, but just job losses and even the social unrest, the Latino community in general, alongside our Black brothers and sisters, have suffered most significantly, not just impacts as a result of healthcare or the lapses in that space, but also job losses and opportunities. Our children, working to, in many cases, self-educate at home as our members of our community are out working. And so when we think about the technology divide and the other opportunities, it really is the economy that I think can help our community in all of these spaces when it comes to advancement.
Thank you, Stacey. Jorge, you have so much experience with Hispanic associations, manage and are very close to celebrities from all sorts of life. You understand corporate America, having one of the most successful agencies to try to understand not only the Latino market, but else. So you and I have been discussing a long time that the unification of Latinos will actually represent higher representation in more political figures, more higher positions in companies. we also know that when we're united and we support each other, our voices are heard, we're counted, we can start doing advocacy for our salaries, for our conditions, and so on. So tell me, what do you think is the value of unification? What would it take for all the worlds that you know, the Hispanic communities, the celebrities, the corporates, to be in this agenda?
Well, thank you, Claudia, and thank you for everything you do for our community, and obviously Stacy, as she knows well, I've also been a big fan of hers for a long time. And USHLI, thank you, Dr. Juan Andrade. The work that you all do is so important for our community. So I have to say, having had kind of different hats throughout my career, Claudia, that have all in some way been interwoven, right? But I've worked in media, in sports, entertainment, music, and on the agency side, I've had this really unique perspective. Also having been on the Unidos US board for 10 years and chaired that organization, unique perspective, right? And what I would always say, Claudia, when I was on the first NCLR board that then we rebranded as Unidos US, what I realized being on that board and being the first Cuban American board chair from Miami, is that there's more that unites us than that divides us. And I think we need to find what are those places of common just intersection between all of our communities, because we've said a number of them here, but obviously we talked about faith, family, love of country, love of culture, our food. There's so many things, our language, there's so many things that divide us. And, I think whereas, if I could speak to myself, my parents who got here as Cuban exiles in 1961, their experience is very different than mine, right? Their experience was they had to get here, work hard. Their generation had to build family, build community, and what have you. I really think, Lali, it's the role of our generation to really deepen that, to really deepen what our parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles started, right? When they first got here. And it doesn't matter if we're Mexican, if we're Cuban, if we're Puerto Rican, if we're Colombian, Dominican, Venezuelan, Spanish, doesn't matter. That we all kind of take, that heritage, that history that we have from our families and put it to work for the greater good, right? For all of Latinos, right? Because, when one Latino succeeds, we all succeed. When one Latino shines, we all shine. You talked about, CEOs. Yeah, the fact that we have Latino CEOs, that's a point of, in Fortune 500 companies, that's a point of pride. Would love to see more Latinos, Latinas, CEOs, corporate board members. We're not there yet. The fact that we're 18% of the population, 62 million people, yet some of the biggest companies in the world still don't have Latinos representation on their board, that needs to change. When Monica Lozano recently was named to the Apple board, again, that was a moment of celebration for all of us. The fact that Apple selected Monica, she happens to be Latina, and she happens to also be an extraordinary executive. She is going to add so much to that board, right? As obviously her cultural perspective as a Latina, but also her business acumen, having run one of the top media companies, right? So obviously what I'm getting at is I really believe we're at the start of a tipping point for our community. We're at the start of, over the next decade, we're going to see less and less of like, hey, we're counting how many do we have here and how many do we have there. And we're going to see hopefully a wave of change in regard to that representation. And what that's going to do, I think, Claudia, is it's going to continue to unite us. And, going back to my role on Unidos, and what I share many times with potential clients as we meet with them or with clients is that, again, there's more that unites us than divides us as communities. And that we have to all be, including corporate America, bridge builders between our communities, bridge builders between our cities, right? Yes, the growing up in East LA maybe is very different than growing up in East Hialeah, right? But if we go deeper into East LA and East Hialeah, I promise you there's a lot there that joins us together. right? And I think it's finding that commonality as Hispanics, as Latinos, is what's going to make us succeed, and is going to make the bar grow in regard to CEO representation, board representation,